Welcome, 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 welcome to the welcome everybody to the Rum. This is Brian.
To the Rum. I'm Constantine. He's the Rum champion. I'm the Rum runner-up.
Rum runner-up, and we are the Rum.
The Rum.
We have such an amazing show for you guys today. So I will say that this actually came about. Constantine, correct me if I'm wrong. Constantine and I have, I think one of us. Well, yes, it's good. Always keeping me honest. But we had I think our first shorty ever, where we had talked about rum from Oz.
Yes.
You've tried a lot. I've tried a lot. I've had some Bundy and Beanley, and it's good. This Killick that I'm sipping on here, I know we'll get to show and tell. But Constantine was invited by our lovely guest to go over, hang out in Australia. And turns out Constantine is now an Aussie man, an Aussie rum man, as it were.
Australian, mate. Is that right? Am I doing it right?
It is, yes.
Yes. Australian.
I'm surprised. Hopefully this is a peace offering. So Steve, Steve Magarry, everybody. We'll get into who he is. But Steve, I've got Constantine finally saying rumsies just because it's super fun. Or like sippy poo, buzzy bears. But initially, and this is on recording, Constantine was like, that's too Australian. I don't like it. I don't like rumsies.
We call it rumbo. So we have
Oh, another one. See, you knew it.
Ooh, there you go.
You know, I'm tripping over slang here. I can't get through like a half hour in Australia without a new slang like that I don't know coming out.
Yeah.
Rumbo.
But the one that gets me is because I have friends on him.
You having brekkie?
And brekkie,
we're having brekkie rum.
Ooh, brekkie rum. What I'll say is, and then we'll get into our lovely guest, is I've got a couple friends in Melbourne. I know enough to say Melbourne. And we've gotten into these arguments about how to pronounce things. And it's like, okay, yeah, you're going to don't criticize Americans for saying orange instead of orange. When perfect example of how, I guess there's another way to say it, lazy Australian is that, hey, I'll come around yours this avo. Like, don't come at me for not pronouncing my A in orange, which I do say orange now. So anyways, and I will die. I will take this to my grave. I'll fight this hill. I will die on this hill even by myself. It's aluminum, not aluminium. We're not even we're throwing in extra letters in there, just make it.
There is a different spelling.
You see? Well, anyways, to our lovely listeners, Constantine, since he's sitting right next to you, who do we have? We have a titan in the rum industry.
We have a titan in the rum industry. We have Steve Magarry. You know him. I've seen him online for years in all the Facebook groups. I know everyone knows of him, and now you're going to get to know him for real, Steve. In person.
Thanks, person, God. Online.
Thanks for the invitation. Great to be on.
Oh, Steve, yeah. I think you've been properly prepped on the silliness that's going to ensue for the next hour, but we're glad to have you. And quick updates, Constantine, just super quick. We have 361 subscribers now, so hooray for that.
Hooray. Well, I want to note, though.
Oh, yeah.
According to analytics, 77% of our listeners are not subscribers.
Yeah, what's up with that?
Hit that subscribe button. Let us know you're out there.
Smash that button. I don't know why it's smash. The one that I want to bring back is smashing, because from Wild Thornberries, smashing news, Eliza. Anyway, so we have subscribers. We're doing our things. I'll just do one update from me. Anybody that is interested in the LA area, California area, go to rumcuriousclub.com to see events. The Rum Curious Summit tickets have been on sale. We have 120 tickets sold, so we've got to get to 500 by the end of May, but we're trending well. If you are in the area or if you are looking to come travel, make sure to send me a message because we have early bird pricing, but I'll actually give you an extra 10% on your ticket if you get it before the end of April. So, and speaking of events, Constantine is planning his own big shindig doohickey down in Fiji.
That's right. Fiji Rum and Tiki Festival, 19th and 20th of September in Fiji. You got to come if you want to go. And it's on the west coast of the main island of Fiji in a town called Nadi. We put the N in there because that's what we do in Fiji. We throw extra letters in that aren't even in the word. But if you look on the map, it's Nadi. So when you're booking your flight, Nadi, Nadi, direct flights every day from LA. 3 days a week from San Francisco, 3 days a week from Dallas. So if you're on the East Coast, you have no excuse to miss this. Straight to Dallas and all the way down to Fiji, direct, plus all the flights in Australia and everywhere else in the world. So 19th and 20th September, Fiji Rum and Tiki Festival.
Hoorah. Hoorah. I'm not even a Marine, but it's always, why does the voice crack? Hoorah. I'm here for it. Hoorah. All right. So Steve Magarry of Sydney Rum Distillery, and we are super excited to have you, Steve. So I think first and foremost, before you can tell us about yourself, we need to know what everybody's drinking. We have a smidge of show and tell, and God bless you guys. It's 7:40 in the morning in Oz, and you're a bunch of alcoholics. I love it. What are y'all drinking?
That's what they do down here.
We'll start with our guest. So Steve, what are you drinking?
So this is a fantastic product from a local craft producer. Lucky enough to take Constantine in to have a look, get behind the scenes of this producer. The label is called Winding Road. The distiller owner, Mark Awad, he's native Californian actually. And with this product, award-winning Coastal Cane Pure Single Rum. So it is a juice style liquid. And it was a fantastic experience to, do some barrel sampling and go through different barrels and understand his process of using juice and also molasses rums, but in an amazing part of Australia.
Ooh. Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it myself. It's amazing. Now, what I've got is a little something called Cargo Cult rum. Well, maybe
I've seen pictures of this, and I want it so bad. I want both bottles.
I've got
Wonka Vision. I'll just reach through and grab it.
There's the microphone. Here we go. Yeah. I've got the banana rum because it's breakfast, and bananas for breakfast are healthy.
Of course.
So this is it right here. And it is amazing. I wish you could smell this. And Steve was talking to me about the process and how they extract the flavor from real bananas at different points in the ripening process to capture the whole essence of a banana. So that's all right here in a glass, and it's absolutely amazing. I wish you could smell it. But the Cargo Cult rum, they've also got a couple of other bottlings. They've got this Navy strength rum, and Steve thought we were going to talk about Australian rum today, but we're actually just going to do a deep dive into what is Navy strength rum.
Oh my God. I still have PTSD because I walked inadvertently into a buzzsaw and found myself in the middle of this debate, one of the many interesting debates in the rum world, and went, all right, so I'm just going to pay a little bit more attention to what I post about. I'm not trying to get my head chopped off, but I'm so down. What do you got? Am drinking. So we have a shortage of good rum from Oz, which I've been very vocal about here in the US, but I've got Dead Reckoning Killick. Now, for any of our lovely listeners that are in California specifically, you can get a bottle of this for $46.99 shipped to your door or to your closest K&L. It's an absolute steal, 55%. And anybody that has been concerned with, it's not high ester enough. First of all, how many is enough? We had Christelle and Zan and Martha on from Jamaica, and they were all talking about just the average person. It doesn't need DOK or the WK from New Yarmouth. So anyways, my whole thing though is that if you like buttered popcorn, and this is for you. If you don't like buttered popcorn, then you need to have your taste buds reset. I'm sure there's a procedure for that. And I made the joke to you guys, just for our lovely listeners, if you don't like buttered popcorn, if you don't like Dogs or the Beatles, you gotta snitch on your neighbor or something, because those people are psychos. So there's no reason why anybody wouldn't love this. So shout out to Justin from Dead Reckoning. Absolutely delicious stuff. And speaking of Dead Reckoning, one more amazing thing is FRS just did a barrel pick with 83 Islands from Vanuatu. Yeah. I got a bottle and it's on my way. So on its way to me.
Awesome.
So on my way. Yeah, shout out to Justin over there. And he's in Adelaide?
Correct, yes.
Which, one last thing, this is just a geographical thing. I only know this because of my previous years in tech. why does Adelaide have a 30-minute time difference? It's so like just why? It's just like, okay. I left at 2:30 and I got home and it's still 2:30. I'm here for it.
Couldn't be bothered. Oh, to just flip the clock one way or the other,
I know.
Well, that's a point that I think we'll get to, though, and another geographical point. If you don't know, if you haven't bothered to spin the globe around, if people still have those and look, Australia is fucking huge. It is as big as like the continental United States of America.
Oh,
People
for
think,
sure.
oh, maybe it's like Arizona or something like that. No, it is massive. Absolutely massive. So since I got down here, we've done a little bit of driving, Steve.
Yeah.
We've been in the car a little bit. So just real quick, let me back up and how I ended up here. I made a comment in a short, and we have to both own this. We said,
There you go.
there is no good rum in Australia. We caveated that with that we've tried. But
yes.
So I said, and it's not that far from Fiji to Australia. So I thought, let's go see. We don't have a huge budget for this, but we're going to go see at least a little bit of this massive country and see what good rum is there. And so I got on a plane and I got to Australia, and a one of those problems of living in paradise is I got dengue fever when I was supposed to leave. That's a whole other story. Ended up here, made it through dengue, got to Steve's house. And for all of the Gen X fans out here, I had an opportunity. I saw it. I had the shot and I took it. I'm in Steve's kitchen. We're getting ready to eat. And I said, hey, Steve, could you give me that knife? And Steve picks up a knife.
Oh, my God. Yes. Yes.
And I said, that's not a knife.
That's a knife.
And my life was complete. So that's the kind of silliness that we're getting up to. But I just want to say the reception's been great. Even people I haven't met. So there's a guy named Tim Lamb who reached out, and I know Tim's a regular listener, from Burdekin Rum, and was like, you got to come up here. But again, having dengue and my schedule being messed up, and then Australia being absolutely massive, I'm like, oh, he makes Burdekin Rum. That must be in a place called Burdekin. Let me look at the map. I'll just drive up there. And I think I told you, Steve, I was like, we'll just take a short drive. It's in the same state because the state of Queensland, the great state of Queensland. It's like a 14-hour drive in the same state. So we couldn't make it up there, but we were able to make it to a couple other places. So the places we hit in person, I'll just go through this real quick. Bentley, which is the birthplace of Australian rum, I saw in person the still that was on the SS Walrus. They had a floating distillery. The tour guide showed me the exact point in the river where it ran aground and was abandoned, and they snatched the still. It's like a great story in Australia, right? Some guy's got a still on a boat and leaves it for a minute, and two other guys steal it because it's a country full of criminals. And they just saw the opportunity, and so they took it and they started doing their own thing, went there. But that's sort of the birthplace of rum. And then we took a drive down to Winding Road, which is what Steve is drinking. Fantastic distillery, picturesque, one-man show on this side of this mountain. They've got goats there, everything you can imagine. But from there, we saw that sort of the more modern face of Aussie rum. Went to the other end of the modern spectrum, right? From the one-man show to a place called Husk Distillery, which is a huge commercial operation, Forsyth stills, all of that. So we've seen kind of the range of it. And there's also a couple projects brewing that I can't mention that are going to be coming out over the years. Fantastic liquids. So I can confirm through all of this that there is good rum in Australia. I'm just going to go ahead and say that. There is good rum in Australia. And that's a wrap.
And we're done. Thanks for listening to the podcast. Yeah, thanks for listening to the podcast. We're done, and hooray! No, we had no doubt. To be fair, we have been very vocal that we haven't tried. So that was my big thing, and now I'm just getting even more so FOMO because it's a bit easier for you to fly to Oz than it is for me. Even though what is it? It's still like an 8-hour flight, 6, 7, 8, something like that. So, it's different for me at 17. If I did come, I'd just crash on Steve's couch. Be like, I'm not
for
leaving.
Me, it's like 3 hours.
Oh, see, there you go. I don't know how y'all are. I don't know how geography works because I'm an American and, we're all just dumb.
Like 3 hours.
You're at least worldly and traveled. I'm a nut. So no, but that's super excited. I've heard about Husk. I've talked to a few folks that are in the Rum Curious Club. Steve, you and I have chatted quite a bit. I'm excited. And I think we've also agreed, Constantine, that Australia just being, I think it's one of the top 10 producers of sugarcane. So
Yes.
when you're controlling your own supply and you're getting high on your own supply, you kind of control your own destiny, if you will, because you're not like the Caribbean or, most distilleries that have to import things. So you can keep your costs down that way. Just the infernal thing is the United States does not make it easy for you to get your products into the US. I mean, I think that there's only been a couple bottlings of Beanley that have come, and that's through Valier. And now with a potential 200% tariff, I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. And also, just I don't know what the process is for getting into the US. I know that products have to be FDA certified or something like that. So, but eventually, I think, Constantine, I'll just have to come to Fiji. Might have to come a week early, and then I'll call you up, Steve, and we'll come to Oz, and then we'll just travel around the whole. Well, as much as we can, because I don't think in a week we can do the whole country.
No. Just one note about Steve. So I mentioned criminals in Australia. Steve's family, respectable. They actually came here bringing the gear for sugar mills. So not a criminal on one side of his family. Criminal on the other side, though.
The lot of them. Well, and before we get too deep, Steve, would love to have you introduce yourself to our audience for those that may not know who you are. Just give us the whole bit and all that.
Thanks, Brian. For those that don't know, my background basically got into distilling and specifically rum. Many years ago in a previous life, I was interested in renewable fuels, so biodiesel, ethanol fuels, and working in that space 20 years ago and research and development, and quickly realized the economy of scale for renewable fuels at that time. It's very, very tricky, large scale type projects, and started to look across to alternative uses of ethanol, which led me down the path of beverage alcohol. And at the time, seeing the craft industry in the US starting to take off, the craft industry in the UK starting to take off, and just thought it's a matter of time till it hits Australia.
Sure.
So yeah, and then shortly after that, my wife and I, we were actually living in the US in Florida, and we looked at starting up a rum distillery in Florida to create a Caribbean, Florida Keys style rum to export back into the Australian market. We were close to doing that, but we decided to hold off on it and look at doing that once we returned back to Australia.
Wow, I love it. So, and what was, and just for my knowledge, was there like a rum that you tasted? Was there like the light bulb? Because Constantine and I talk about this quite a bit of just, and then I had this and was like, holy hell, this is what rum is. Did you have that kind of epiphany, or did you always enjoy rum? What had you go down the rabbit hole?
So growing up in a small town in Australia, there's one rum brand that everybody knows, and that's all you know. You don't know any different. And then eventually, traveling on a more of a global perspective and getting to understand there is more to rum than one brand, one product. But I preface that in that there is a very limited range of brands and products available in the Australian market. But that's certainly changed in the last 10, 15 years. And then looking, as being in the US, being in the Florida, Caribbean region, and really starting to open up to what rum can be. It's not one specific brand that you'll find in Australia. And then looking at the opportunity in Australia to go, there is again, looking at our fantastic sugarcane industry, there's all this surplus of molasses available. The raw material is great. There's fantastic provenance up and down the coastline where the cane is growing. And there's an opportunity. There's an opportunity to explore Australian rum, the history of it, where it is today, and just starting to look at what it can be in the future. And at the end of the day, I'm all about promoting Australian rum as a whole, as an industry, and what that opportunity can be to the global audience.
If you those that make it down here to Australia, you'll really quickly see the brand that Steve's talking about. Bundaberg rum, Bundy. It's everywhere. And if you come down here and it's like anywhere, right? For us rum geeks, we expect to have these great rum lists, but you go into your average bar and, what do you got for rum? And it's going to be Bundaberg. It's going to be Steve's working to change all that, but that's just sort of it. And you said something yesterday that was like kind of mind blowing too. So it's of course the biggest part of the Australian rum market, but what was it? 95% of the consumers are in one state.
Yes, in Queensland.
In Queensland, which is where we are now, which is sort of northeast. Yeah, so amazing, right? That you got that many drinkers. Or I guess I said this too. It could be because there's just not that many people in the other states. I mean, there's big open spaces in Australia.
No, it is very geographical, and this is obviously where the sugarcane is grown. This is the home state of the sugarcane industry, and therefore, this is where the majority of the rum is made. It's just proximity to the raw material
and faithfulness to the home team. I guess a little bit of that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And we drove through miles of sugarcane, Brian, just miles and miles of cane. It's like driving through California and it's all sugarcane.
No kidding. Oh, and so is the vast majority of cane in Queensland? So it's not in New South Wales or Victoria or Northern Territory or anything like that?
Just a bit of a deep dive into the sugarcane industry. Yeah. There's a stretch of coastline. It's 2,200 kilometers of coastline, and that's the breadth of the sugarcane industry in Australia, which most of it is one state, Queensland. There's a small percentage that then goes into northern New South Wales, and that's where Winding Road and Husk are. And then through that distance, there's 5 different biosecurity zones to protect the industry that you can't take cane varieties from one zone to the other. And that's really about trying to protect, from insect or potential disease risk, trying to protect that industry because I think it's $2 billion Australian market.
No small feat, or no small.
The cane industry or
sugarcane industry.
Yeah.
Wow. And what is I mean, Steve, you hinted at this a little bit, but what's the kind of high level history of rum in Australia? Like when did distillation start happening? I imagine It was the British bringing stills and all of that, right?
Yes. So Australia's history as a British colony. If we look at 1788, basically when Australia was first settled, there was cane coming in then on the first ships coming in. That cane actually came from Tahiti. Across. But then nothing really happened until you get through to 1823 was sort of the first commercial crop grown of sugarcane. And that was in New South Wales in a cooler climate. So it didn't grow very well. And then you get through to the 1860s where the sugarcane industry really started to take off in and around Brisbane, southeast Queensland, where we are. And then further up the coast where you're starting to get more tropical climate into Mackay, the Mackay region. And so then, 1860s through to 1880s is really this golden period of sugar. And then rum that followed. There's actually quite a cluster of old sugar mills and distilleries up in the Mackay region that predate the likes of Beenleigh, the likes of Bundaberg in the 1860s.
Oh, wow.
And even in the hometown that I grew up in was two distilleries in 1866, 1868. And there's some remnants and chimney stacks and things around of that remain of those two distilleries. But then you get into the industry really starting to boom and scale, and that's 1884 you've got Beenleigh, 1888 you've got Bundaberg, and then they're the two big historical players, and the third historical player was what we call CSR. It's an acronym for Colonial Sugar Refinery. They essentially had the monopoly of the Australian sugar industry. They were the big boys. They owned the farms, the mills, the distilleries, aside from Bundaberg and Beenleigh. And they had a distillery on the banks of Sydney Harbour. And they produced a classic Aussie rum that's called Inner Circle.
Okay.
And that was commercially available between 1968 and 1986. Then it went dormant, and that Inner Circle brand was then brought into the Beenleigh Distillery, Beenleigh portfolio, and those listeners that have had the opportunity to try Inner Circle, that's really what we as Aussies see as a classic Australian rum, or what Australian rum could be.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, CSR is something that you'll see when people come out to Fiji. We're going to try to get a tour of the sugar mill there. So the sugar mill in Fiji was also CSR.
Yeah, their tentacles reached across to sugar in Fiji and also in New Zealand. So in the South Pacific region, the CSR was definitely a monopoly in the industry, and that's where there was multiple distilleries in Fiji. Now there's one, and it was a CSR site.
Okay. Man.
CSR. So real quick, that's when people hear something like that, Colonial Sugar Refinery, they think like government owned or something like that. But was this government or private enterprise?
No, private. Okay. Yep.
Okay. Interesting. And then, so did CSR dissolve? Did it get chopped up to different companies? Because I know the sugar obviously industry took a big decline, but are they still around or not so much?
They've diversified out of the sugar industry.
Okay.
And that those assets were bought out by other global sugarcane and sugar companies. And they diversified more into building materials, cement, bricks, other construction materials. So they know they've been out of the sugar industry for quite some time.
Okay. Oh man, I mean, I could just continually ask all these different questions because Steve, you're a treasure trove of information, and so it sounds like Bundy, which for American listeners, you definitely know Bundaberg because we get a copious amount of their ginger beer here in the U.S.
Two different companies. That is the rum brand and the ginger beer brand. Two separate businesses. For a very long time, they didn't really talk to each other. And from a global perspective, a lot of people assume that, but they are two completely different entities.
Oh man! So the way I see this is, if you've ever seen like ceremonies of like on the border of, this is going to be really obscure, so I'm sorry, not sorry, but like if you've ever seen like the flag ceremony, the raising and the lowering of the flag, I think that's what the ceremony is between India and Pakistan on the border. Where they're all just like posturing and doing all these things. That's where I see like the Bundy ginger beer versus the Bundy rum. They just open the door at one time of day and just like stand off, and like it's like Sharks versus Jets, but Australia style, So I don't know what the gangs in Australia would be.
Yeah, it's interesting because they actually did it. They finally did a collaboration just a couple of years ago of rum or unaged rum into with ginger beer as an RTD product, and that's 100 plus years in the making, that one. So
I tell you. And so, I mean, Steve, I know that you worked for Beenleigh for a long time. You've been so very active. You're a huge proponent of Australia rum. Covered a little bit of the history, but I want to know. So now, Sydney Rum Company. I think that's what it's called, right? Sydney Rum Company?
Sydney Rum Distillery.
Sydney Rum Distillery. Okay, so talk to us a little bit about that. You are taking matters into your own hands, and this is the ultimate hold my beer moment, and I am totally here for it.
Thank you. Yes, so just to give listeners a background, I've been in the chief executive role at Sydney Rum Distillery for 3 years now. Previous to that was distillery manager at Beenleigh. And then also just a distillery manager of 23rd Street, which is another distillery site here in Australia that does produce vodka, gin, brandy, and whiskey. So very fortunate to cover all that breadth of industry categories and production of them. And so with Sydney Rum Distillery, so the business has been operational for 10 years. A lot of behind the scenes consultation, research, development, looking at engineering. Holistically, they started looking at in the Sydney region, Australia's largest city, metropolis, and looking at the opportunity of establishing that Sydney-based operation, a greenfield, new construction project. And looking then in my time in being with the business is also looking at evolving that thought process, that it doesn't have to be a greenfield, full blown construction opportunity, that we can look at brownfield or existing buildings or existing sites that may be better suited, looking at adaptive reuse of an existing building, or a fit for purpose site that we could upgrade, and ultimately it's about getting a facility and a product to market in a quicker timeline. And so before Christmas 24, so a couple of months ago now, we did secure a site. It's in the what we call what's known as the Hunter Valley region. It's a winery region. It's somewhat similar to, say, Napa in California, Sonoma, probably in California. And so this is a existing site. It actually dates back to post World War II. It's an 80-year-old building. It's got some heritage protection on it. But basically the building started as a dairy cooperative for the local area. And so you got this great history. We've actually got a lot of the original blueprints from the building. It's an amazing treasure trove there. But more recently, in the last 30 years, it was more converted to a contract winery and operational distillery. So that's our interest, is the distillery piece.
And so you found this building. You walked in. I've seen some pictures of it. I've seen some of the blueprints. And if you follow Steve on LinkedIn, I think you have the picture of you looking at the blueprints. Just fascinating out there. But tucked inside this old milk producer were all these massive stills and fermentation space. And like, what was that like? You found this old historical building, and holy shit, there's a big fucking distillery already here. Was that just like, the lights shone down?
With our team have known about the site for several years. But within the Australian distilling space, it is quite. The site was operating previously. It was very quiet, very low key, under the radar. Mm-hmm. And so, even for the local residents, they drive past this building. It's on the main road. They'll drive past it every day. But very few people actually know or have an understanding of what's inside, what the infrastructure, what the assets are. So there's actually 6 column stills in there. And so you've got your stripping column or beer column, and then there's two column pairs, which can go all the way through to a neutral product, up to 95, 96% alcohol, 195 proof, for example. And then there's this number 6 column is basically a traditional batch column, and that actually dates back to the 1940s. It's 100% copper. It was really for brandy production. And so that's something that I'm looking to explore as well, is not just for the rum opportunity and really trying to showcase it, Australian provenance in our raw material through to a rum, but also collaborating with the local wine industry and looking to do some small scale brandy.
Ooh. I mean, that sounds awesome. And you were at Beanley for a long time. What was it? Because I know that you're a huge proponent of Australian rum, South Pacific rum in general. Being in the industry, what was it that said, hey, like I'm going to go spin off and I want to do my thing? Like, was there a progression over time, or I'm just so curious?
Right. So, it really comes back to that Australian provenance opportunity and taking it to the rest of the world. And so I had that exposure, I guess, and got that experience with the Beanley product, and being able to see that, I guess, or at least a preview of that opportunity in the European market, somewhat in the US market, and really looking at Australian rum as something unique, exotic, something just no different to South Pacific with Fiji. It's a similar sort of draw card to the rum geeks, right? As soon as you see a Fiji release in an independent bottling portfolio, bang, it's gone. And I've definitely experienced that across some of the Australian rum releases as well. So it's really seeing that at the end of the day, to give context, the Australian rum market is very small in the global sphere, and really just recognising that opportunity to really take Aussie rum global. And fundamentally, that's the core philosophy of Sydney Rum Distillery is 80 to 85% of the volume we'll produce is for that global market. Yes, we'll have a domestic presence, but at the end of the day, we're all about taking the Aussie liquid global.
Yeah, and I think that's a really smart approach. And I mean, it's you kind of see that everywhere, right? And so with the Aussie market specifically, we said 95% is Bundy. Is the equivalent, and I'm not saying speaking ill of anything, but is the perception of rum as Bundy kind of like Americans' perception of Captain Morgan and Kraken? And I'm not speaking ill of those brands, but it's with those two brands here in the US, rum is often associated as a cheap mixer that is reminiscent of bad decisions the night before. So is the perception kind of the same? Are there big, it doesn't sound like there's a big Sydney rum society where everybody is hunting down single cask New Yarmouth on a large scale, right?
I'm hunting that down.
Yes, you are. And I love it. I love you for it.
Steve is also the Sydney Rum Society. Just him.
See, there you go. Society of one. Well, I'll join if you're accepting international members. But no, that's okay. But that makes a lot of sense. Is there a thought or a push to kind of elevate the category in Australia, or is it, hey, like we already have built-in audiences outside that are looking for high quality, high proof or not sipping experiences? What does that all look like? And again, I don't mean to just make this like interview, but I'm so damn curious.
I'd actually throw that to Constantine for your experience. Just a couple of days here and talking to a few producers.
I mean, I've been out and about, talked to some producers, been to a couple bars, and Steve has a uphill road here to change the mind of the consumer. It is that Bundaberg rum is like so ingrained in the consumer here. It's what they grew up on. It's what's available. It's what all the bars have, to the point where there was a producer we were talking to here. They've got almost like an unofficial slogan that they've developed to try to win over consumers, where they're like, when they get the questions of what is this, and it's Bundy but better is how they try to make the sale. So when that's your framing, you can see, I mean, you really have a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
It's just what's out there. And it's not, it's not so different from a lot of places. I mean, I was talking to Danielle Delapoya, who's coming out for Fiji Rum and Tiki Festival. And I said, when you come out here, just understand the bartenders. They don't know a lot about cocktails. They don't know a lot about different spirits and rum and things like that. And he was like, look, man, he's like, it's everywhere. He's like, he went to Jamaica, was expecting to go to a bar and just have the bartender be like, super big into rum and have all this stuff. And he's like, no, it was the same shit as you get everywhere. So I think we all have those challenges. Steve's taking it head on though, to try to push that. But you have these guys that are up and coming. I think the needle will start to move. Like when I was at Winding Road, and then there's this other place that I can't say the name of. It'll come out soon. Just the amazing rum that's sitting in barrels already in Australia. There's a lot of good stuff coming, and I think you'll get there. You'll get some of those Bundy people peeled off, right? And even Bundaberg, though, Steve was telling me, but even Bundaberg has tried to do some innovative stuff and to try to do some rums that we would like, and it's just kind of sort of falls a little bit flat right now.
Well, I mean, then it sounds like it's just a global problem. And Steve, I have so many gray hairs from trying to push the needle here in California. So basically, welcome to the Sisyphus Society. I know, right?
And just to give, I guess, just to give the audience a bit of perspective, we look at, yes, Bundaberg is the largest rum producer in Australia. Beanley is number 2. And if we look at a volume difference, but it's almost a 10 times multiplier
Yeah.
in volume difference between number one and number two in the market. And this is the opportunity that the Sydney Rum Distillery has and the team's identified is we want to come in between those two. Our production facility, we're looking at between 1.5 and 2 million litres of alcohol production per year. And that's both column still and pot still. And so, as I've said, though, our focus is that global market.
Yep.
And you've started that already with Cargo Cult, right? So this was an existing brand.
Yes.
And you're doing a lot of work with them now. So how does this fit into what you guys are trying to do?
Yes. So amazing brand, amazing liquid. It is South Pacific sourced. So it is, until recently, until we acquired this facility, one could call us a non-distillery producer. So basically bulk source liquid. We bring it in-house. It's a spiced rum portfolio. And so there's the three products that Constantine's highlighted is the dry spiced. So it's a spiced rum with no sugar. Then we have the banana rum, which is the flagship. It really it's really for that on-trade, tiki cocktail type format. And then you've got our newest release, which is the Navy Strength. And so with those three portfolio of three rums, then our largest export market is the UK. And so then we've got that product going in the UK. We've also got it going, we're expanding the opportunity or I guess distribution in Europe. So we've got distributors in France, Italy, Valier is our distributor in Italy. So shout out to them. And then Germany, we've got Denmark, Czech Republic. So we're building that footprint, region by region, country by country across Europe. And it's a very different strategy for the Australian, craft distillery or distillery producer is we're first and foremost about building that distribution model, that sales model, and building this brand in market that basically gets the consumer, builds a consumer awareness, consumer education, and then once our new brands are up and operational and we've the liquid's flowing, then we will back end that supply into those distributors.
Sure.
Where here in Australia, and there's nothing wrong with this, it's just a very different approach to the standard approach here in the craft industry is a small operation, gradually or incrementally increases in production volume and scale, and then they look to export. But at the end of the day, one of the other core philosophies of Sydney Rum Distillery and why we're looking at this larger production facility and scale is to have an appropriate liquid cost of goods that we can produce that and take that global. We're not constrained to a high cost of goods product in Australia for the Australian market.
Sure.
And so it's very different philosophy an approach that we have versus a lot of the other Australian distillers.
Okay, man. I'm just cheering you on in whatever we can do here in the US. I think we can all just commiserate, that it's kind of the same everywhere on a global scale. Yes, you have some really strong rum communities in certain pockets, but as a whole, it's just globally accepted. And I'm talking on a grand scale that it's sweet, it's this, it's that, it's only meant for pina coladas on a beach somewhere. And it's really frustrating, Yeah. It's just, come on, man, just somebody try some. And so, I've been trying to do everything I can. I posted something in honor of St. Patrick's Day on a few different Irish whiskeys and what comparable it's something that's at least in the same ballpark. So like, for example, this Redbreast, this Listowel, or however you say it, you can actually absolutely enjoy a Savannah Le Must. And it's in the same ballpark as far as complexity, proof, and all that kind of stuff. But the whole point of this is I'm just trying to figure out what's the best way to capture those consumers. Is it, hey, if you like this, try that. Like with the summit, it's, hey, let's get bartenders to show up and maybe that moves the needle. But it's a very tricky thing trying to shift perception. So Steve, I am immediately your biggest fan. I'll be the president of the Steve Magarry fan club. I got a big hat. And so just hats off to you, man, because it's no small feat. And it's a long, long road, but we all have to be certain levels of crazy for doing this. Constantine, you've opened your distillery. You're doing it, and Steve, you've done the same thing, and we're all a healthy amount of insane, but in the right way.
You have to be. Yeah. 100%. Well, so the approach though, Steve, just, we had the one producer here who said that it's, here it is, and the customer asked the question, and it's Bundy but better. I mean, that's an approach. What are you guys going to do? What's your strategy for peeling these customers off to getting them off, not off Bundaberg, but at least opening up the perception?
To me, it comes down to education and awareness, and really championing that provenance. So we can look at we are looking at sourcing the molasses from different regions, different producers. If we were to do a juice style product, then it's all about getting back to the grower, the farmer, and again the provenance of where, the terroir of the location of where that's grown, and being able to pull that right through and into the bottle.
Yeah.
And really educating the consumer of where, see that full traceability from the cane field to the bottle, and being able to tell that story globally as well.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I get a lot of feedback when I am in market in Europe or in the UK, and people ask me, "Oh, do you grow sugarcane in Australia, or do you import your molasses from the Caribbean?" So there's just this absolute peel back, start from scratch, core education, base layer, build, and there's a lot of fundamentals there, and there's a lot to work with, but it also creates a lot of opportunity for us from brand education, brand awareness. Talking to the raw material, and layering up from there.
It's funny. You might think that it's silly, right? People say, "Oh, well, you must get your molasses from the Caribbean, right?" Which, I mean, we could just put that the other way. We all know that the best Jamaican rum is made with molasses from Fiji.
It is.
Minus Worthy Park. Minus Worthy Park.
Minus Worthy Park.
Right.
Zan, we got you covered.
Yeah, we got you, Zan. But yeah, no, I mean, and so one other question. So for most outside of the two largest, is every distillery in Oz, are they single estate, or is there still patches of sugar cane that are owned by third parties that sell to distilleries?
So with Husk, their major focus is that single estate type approach, and working with specific cane varietals. So it's for, at least from the Australian rum context, it's exciting to see how that's evolving and where that may lead to with them, and then other smaller producers that are starting to really play with different cane varieties and what that may yield. Then, at the end of the day, the molasses that we have, it comes out of the back end of the sugar mills. It's a waste product as far as sugar producers are concerned. It's of no use to them. They just want to get rid of it so they can keep making it. And then that goes to, obviously, off to the rum producers. And there is an amazing amount of difference between the different regions that the cane's grown in, the molasses quality. And then when you, particularly at least at a fermentation distilling stage, you actually do see those differences for sure. By the time that's liquid is put in a barrel and it's aged for 2 to 5 years, you'll lose those nuances. But you really do see some variation in that unaged, new make or unaged product. But one of the not sure if it's constraint or opportunity in the Australian market is we have a minimum 2-year age statement for rum.
Nice.
As does Fiji.
Yeah.
So this is where we can't call a new make or an unaged rum until it's 2 years plus. Therefore, a lot of the global agricole or juice brands aren't allowed to import into Australia unless they change their labelling.
Yeah,
the
Ray
big
and Nephew's
complaint.
label here is different. So the Ray and Nephew label, I think it just says overproof on it and doesn't
You
say,
can't use the word rum.
yeah,
Wow.
cannot
Okay.
call it rum.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
So
but
in the case of in the case of Killick, obviously I have this one from Justin and Dead Reckoning, but I know that Killick has unaged stuff. Husk has unaged stuff. So does it just I can see the label because I think I can see the label in my mind, but does it just say like sugar cane or does it just say the name
So
of the logo or the company?
It's unfortunate, but it starts to get a little deceptive because if you have the three-letter word rum in your logo or trademark, that's accepted. But you can't have it use a product descriptor.
Got
Like, for
it.
example, it could be a white or a spiced or a
Got
gold.
it.
So alluding to what the product or at least the category is, just
Sure.
doesn't have the word rum on it.
it's like cane spirit sometimes.
Yeah, so cane spirit is sort of is the sort of default term, and yeah, so and that's a contentious in the rum space.
Okay.
But 2 year age statement is not just for rum; it's for whiskey and brandy.
Okay.
And so as a producers, as an industry, we are looking to how we can review that and evolve that opportunity. But a little history fact here around the 2 year age statement is a lot of the reason why that come into place early 1900s was because of Verschnitt being imported from Germany. Now, those rum geeks that know what Verschnitt's made from is effectively highest rum with neutral spirit. So, this it comes back to the likes of Hampden Estate, Port Royal, etc.
Yeah.
Distilleries in Jamaica, and basically it was looking to minimise or stop that or protectionism of the Australian industry from these cheap foreign imports.
Sure. Okay. Very interesting. Well, and the rum scene has evolved quite a bit, and so I know, Steve, it sounds like you have so many different exciting options. With Cargo Cult, for example, but just would love to see or to pick your brain on the vision of Australia rum. Like, where is the industry going? It sounds like there's, I don't know, at least 40 plus rum distilleries in Oz. And so looking into the crystal ball, what is the future of Australian rum? If we need to do the seance, la, 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 I don't think that's the noise at all for a seance, but yeah, that's Fred. Yeah, that's Fred. Yeah. Okay. No, that's if Fred is meditating.
Right. So look, if we a crystal ball of Australian rum in the future, and you've seen this, you've realised this being here. There's a lot of diversity. Yeah. And yes, people pick up and say, okay, Australian rums have a signature flavour or aroma that they can see as as across different producers. And at the end of the day, that comes back to the raw material shining through in that end product. But I think we at least recognise it's part of the Australian cultural heritage is, we're all about just having a go, just having a crack and just see what happens, but always focused on giving 110%, creating the best. If that's the world's best, great. That's what we put on, be the pinnacle to be the world's best. And for example, we look across different categories. Gin, for example, Four Pillars Gin here in Australia has won the IWC Global Gin Trophy for three times. So we do, at least in the distilling community, there's these kind of different producers across the industry that we look to. Yes, that can be done. We can be the world's best. And just on the Bean Lee Distillery in 2002, 2004 was awarded the IWC Rum Trophy. Oh, wow. Again, considered the world's best rum producer at that time. So again, we have done it. We have been at the pinnacle. That's climbing the mountain to get back there.
Yeah, and there's definitely, like Steve said, I think when the global image of Australians is kind of that, no fucks given. Let's just go hard. And that's kind of what I've seen with the distillers here. It's like you mentioned early on, Brian, it's the hold my beer approach and watch what we're going to do. So it's there. I mean, Four Pillars is definitely done. I'm reading the book by the founders of Four Pillars now and looking at that amazing journey there. And that's kind of what I've seen talking to these distillers here. That's been the coolest thing. You got to come out, Brian, and just when you go and you show up at their place and it's just like the passion and
Oh yeah.
I don't care what anyone else is doing. This is what we're doing. Awesome.
Yeah.
It's a great spirit.
I mean, I'm certainly here for it. I know I got to get down there. I know that longtime friend of the show, we have to get him on. Mike Streeter from Down Island Spirits was in Oz at the end of last year. And I was like, bring back some good barrels, because I would love to do a barrel of whatever it is. So, and Mike's got a very good palate. So he's going to send me some stuff, and who knows, we'll have a, maybe the first IB release that isn't of Beanley, which, and not to dunk on Beanley, I will say this, Steve, I'll see if I'll put some sample for you. But Roaming Road, Mike Gilmore out of Wyoming. This is phenomenal. This is a 16-year single barrel, ex-bourbon, 65.4%, and is very good. Still hasn't quite hit the mind blown, but I know that with Mike Streeter or Steve, I'll just be like, here's $300 US. Get me whatever, and then I'll just bring it all back with me. I've got global entry. They never check, by the way. I brought 14 bottles back from Singapore, and I almost gave myself away. Like I'm walking through customs and like everything to declare. I'm like, yeah, I got like 14 bottles of rum. And the guy was like, you're fine. But to be fair, I said I had 14 bottles, and the guy just, I'm sure, didn't want to deal with the paperwork or whatever. But but that's my thing. I think the future is bright in Australia. I'm excited. And I think the first step, at least for the US market, is to get those IB releases. So I know Dead Reckoning, for example, with getting different things in different juices. The Killick, I think, is very exciting. I really want to try Husk. I really want to try Cargo Coal. I want to try it all. I want to try it all.
Gotcha.
And so, if only I could teleport, and I could just teleport. Maybe that's someday, after I figure out how to crack the rum code here in California. We'll elevate it and then just do teleportation.
Or the other thing, you could just come down to Australia and we can tour around and show you how it's done.
We have
Hell
airplanes.
Yes to that. We do have airplanes. I know. That would be much more feasible. And the thing is, I've constantly joked about this, but if I'll go to Australia, I may never leave. I'll hang out with Huntsman Spiders. I don't care. I'll drink all the rum. Have you seen, so I'm going to deviate because my ADHD. Have you guys seen the video where there's this guy, this dude in Oz? I don't know where he is, but he's like at his mom's house and he's trying to get this Huntsman Spider out of the shower. And like he tries to get it. He's like, let me get the Dyson. And then like it jumps. And so he's like, ah! Which I didn't realize that huntsmen are actually pretty harmless. This is not a spider podcast
here. Correct.
Yeah, I know the redbacks are the ones you got to look out for, but like big bugs, I'm out. I've seen Crocodile Dundee. I know we've referenced beforehand. I've seen crocodiles, alligators, whatever y'all have down there.
Good luck with that.
And there's no distilleries like in the middle of the country, right? So like South Australia, Northern Territories, it's pretty uninhabitable, right?
Somewhat. So down in South Australia, the capital city, Adelaide, you can drive, it's 4 hours north. That's a little country town called Redmark. It's in the middle of a major wine region. And that's where there's a couple of distilleries. Most of their focus is brandy production. And one of those is 23rd Street Distillery that I used to manage. And again, vodka, gin, brandy, whiskey. So that's, and past that into the outback. Yeah, there's not much there. And another rum producer and rum and whiskey producer down in New South Wales is relatively what we would call in the never or the middle of nowhere.
Never. I was going to steal it. That's good. I like that.
Never.
Never.
There is a brand here in Australia. It's a gin brand called Never. And but anyways, these rum producers are quite a ways, quite isolated, and this is where we have different climates and different impacts on maturation. No different to interior US, if you look at Nevada or Utah or and what that maturation climate is versus a tropical climate, particularly from a rum perspective.
Sure. Wild, wild, wild.
Yeah, it's a lot going on in Australian rum. So, from that one little comment in the short video we made, I mean, it's in the spirit of the show. There's no good rum in Australia. We say things like that. Barbados rum is boring. I think, maybe someone said that one time, but we'll push the limits and just get a reaction and get crushed on Facebook. But then we'll go out and we'll do the hard yards.
Well, yeah,
what they say. Hard yard. Maybe that's more Boston than Australia.
Yeah, I was gonna say, are there many Bostonians, like Southies in Australia?
But there's similarities there with these accents.
It's the Irish influence.
There you go. It's the Irish influence.
And here we go. Back to St. Paddy's. Well, no, this is exciting. I mean, the future is bright in Australia. So, I mean, realistically, like timetable, Steve, like focusing on getting much more export to global markets. I was going to say is the U.S. part of those plans, but with all the uncertainty with 200% tariff this, 50% tariff that, who knows? But is there a realistic timeline or where we'll see some of the amazing things that you're working on, both disclosed projects or otherwise hitting American shelves ever, or not ever, but I mean in the next X number of months, 12 months, let's say?
We are actively exploring the US market.
Okay.
With the cargo cult product. We are in discussion with distributors, importers, and what that may look like as a starting point, whether it's West Coast, East Coast, etc. So that is in the works, but it is something that we are taking very strategically and very methodically, and with that long-term approach. As I've said about, we have this cargo cult South Pacific rum. Sort of growing our distribution model, but at the end of the day, it's also about this larger volume and new brands coming to market. So
yeah, exactly.
Really having that continuity of brand supply and really building a relationship with long-term relationships with the right partners.
For sure.
The main focus for us is the European and UK markets.
That's fair.
And that's our priority. But the US is definitely on the radar. And coming back to timing, with our site, we're currently doing a lot of assessment of the current infrastructure, current assets, looking at upgrades. Timing to release a liquid is really going to be dependent on those particular upgrades, because we are looking at two pot stills into the site. And then, and before the end of this year, before we close the end of the year, is the timeline to at least have liquid flowing. Again, getting that liquid to our existing distributors and key partners.
Yeah, I mean, as long as there's at least somewhat of a timeline, maybe not even getting imported into the US, because there's a million different ways that I, as a consumer, and it's probably going to be cheaper for me to order from like Rumex or Whiskey Exchange or Whiskey World or what name have you. I keep checking all the time. I want to get my hands on some Inner Circle. I want to get my hands on some Husk. And just, that's another issue with globalization of rum, is it's so very fragmented. So I don't think there's any website, to my knowledge, where I can go or American consumers can go and get the bottle of XYZ. I mean, I know Whiskey Exchange has some boutique rum stuff from Mount Uncle. I haven't tried that one. I tried the Blackgate. It was pretty neutral for me. Maybe I need to go back and retaste it. But yeah, currently, there's no way. So it's just basically the ultimate cock tease of like, hey, you want this? Come on down. Which I guess that's a very good selling point. Can we say what? You said fuck earlier. I'll put the explicit and we're fine. But besides, like, that's just a well-known phrase, at least here.
Family show.
Oh my God. Yeah, I know. So sorry. I had somebody get upset when I was bartending at the Lucky Tiki like a week or two ago, because I kept dropping too many F-bombs, and like, you say fuck a lot. I'm like, we're in a bar. I'm like,
a fucking bar.
I know, we're in a fuck. No, it's like, what is it in Big Lebowski? He's like, dude, do you have to cuss so doggone much? And everybody's, the fuck you talking about, man? But no, anyways, Steve, back to it. Just keep us in the loop, because I know a lot of folks would love to get their hands on a lot of cool things. And I keep checking every day. Whiskey Exchange, excellence rum. The only thing that kills me is Alex, and I've talked to him about this. I'm like, bro, it's 72 euro shipping. That is awful. And there's other retailers that will ship to the US that don't crush my my wallet the way that you do.
The packaging is so bad too there. Oh my God. It's a different story. I've received from the post office a box smashed and wet. And the postman said, "I'm sorry for your loss," as he handed it to me.
See, I wouldn't have taken it. I'd have been like, yeah, you send it back. Send it back.
Anyway, look, we've just done this deep dive into Australian rum. Steve's got to get back to the business of building Australian rum as we speak. About to happen. He's, but since I've been here, the hard work this man does day in and day out, if you can see behind the scenes, it's good things are coming. Trust me, good things are coming. So we'll let you get back to it, Steve, doing the hard work.
Thank you.
Building Australian rum, but thanks
Appreciate
for joining
you, Steve.
Great to be here.
Like I say, hashtag need more Aussie rum.
Yes. Oh my God. Let's make that a thing. So everybody that tunes in, hashtag need more Aussie rum, and we'll go from there. Steve, you're the best. You all have some fun in Australia. The next episode will actually be with the global rum ambassador, Ian Burrell. And then we'll meet up and sync up with Jay to do more of another shorty of, we don't have a subject yet, but we will soon.
We will soon.
Whether we do something commentary on Barbados, we'll see. I don't think any of us want to get crucified, so we'll see. We'll see. Anyways, appreciate y'all and have a lovely day. And thank you for all listening. Make sure to subscribe if you're listening and you haven't, or follow, just that way you don't have to go searching for it.
It's
anyways,
just click it. You don't have to smash it.
And then super last thing. I've been wanting to make this joke and it keeps coming up. So for Winding Road, the super last thing. For Winding Road, I think I have a slogan for them. Every day is a winding road. That should be.
Oh, wow. You've been working on that one.
That's just, it just popped up into my head and I was like, don't say it. Don't say it.
Oh, man.
But then we kept talking about Winding Road and I just heard the jing. Every day is you know what I mean? So although whoever wrote that song.
So this guy's a badass, by the way. This guy, Mark Awad, am I saying that right? Mark was like a warbird pilot. Flew like World War I, World War II fighters and stuff.
Oh, shit.
Complete badass. So look him up. Amazing stuff. But there it is, Australian rum. There is good rum in the state of Australian rum is strong.
The verdict is rendered. There is. We said good Australian rum. We didn't say mine. I want my brain to be blown, which we're getting there. Your brain has been blown. Mine will be when I see Steve in Fiji.
Yeah.
So, anyways, okay, Steve, get back to work. Enough slacking off. You have an entire country to evangelize.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Bye.
See ya.